So just while we're waiting for Slido.com to kick in and hear what it is that you want to post to the panel, I've just got a quick question to get us started. To each of you, how's your 2022 been so far? How would you describe it?
Are we doing 3 words?
You can do that if you want.
3 words. Chaotic, non-planned.
I'm going to go the same as chaotic. It's been exciting and educational.
For us, I would say manic, super busy, but at the same time exciting as well.
Good stuff, good stuff. Matt, chaotic, just unpicking that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think everyone feels that same veracity of workload on at the moment. I think we've got such an aggressive candidate market out there that there is so much change happening and we can't predict that change. And I think that's the bit that makes it slightly chaotic because all the normal trends and things that we think we know are all unwritten right now. As we're going into a potentially a looming recession, typically it would shift towards talent acquisition, partners that we would have those candidates. What we're finding is the reverse of that right now. People are chasing those monies to head off the cost of living crisis as we're heading into this potential recession. So it's absolutely chaotic out there.
Good stuff. Any of you guys like to add anything to that?
Our chaos has been slightly different because we implemented a new ATS and background checking process within 10 days of each other. And they weren't easy to do.
Very good. Ahmed, anything to add?
Yeah, so for us, as a business, we're going through a huge kind of growth, but also rebuild after the interesting couple of years that we had through the pandemic. Obviously, the cruise industry was probably one of the worst that got affected. So now we are going through that journey where we are rebuilding, but also as a business, we are growing. So it's to actually combine those two kind of journeys is challenging. And yeah, it's manic.
Good love. Okay, we're getting warmed up now. Looks as if we've got some questions. They're coming thick and fast. Right at the top, here's a good one to start, I guess. I guess how you define this is completely up to you. But Josh asks, where is the first place you look for your typical talent? Matt, do you want to take that one?
One word, internal.
Internal.
Yeah, has to be. You have to look at that internal talent plan that you have. Those people that are embedded in your business that you know are they've got the skill set there. They understand your culture and your values, and it's at your best peril to try and enhance their career and retain them within your business. I say after that part, we are going obviously external, and at the moment our business splits into 2, whether it's front-end retail, where typically the job boards are still absolutely key to providing those or finding those pieces of talent. And then if we're looking for more senior roles, absolutely LinkedIn, using LinkedIn, searching databases is where we're finding that talent.
Okay, so some familiar tools there. Anyone disagree? Have a different point of view?
We've had some really good success on social media. So over there, shout out to the guys in the purple. Adway have done some really great work for us on programmatic campaigns and bring people to us that way.
Good, nice plug.
Very, very much similar. So for us, obviously, slightly different, where we recruit worldwide. So we're literally searching for people from all parts of the continents. But obviously, within the head office is always going to be in the internal route because they're people that know the culture, they know the business, they know the systems, and also just gives them that sort of confidence within the business to actually be promoted and then sort of go up the career ladder. And also they can be ambassadors as well with our referrals, and they can bring in external talents, whether through their networks or sort of the social media as well.
Good stuff. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Josh. So James wants to know from either of the panel, what was the most effective news strategy that you've adopted in the last 2 years?
So for us, for example, again, we're not going to sit here and say we're reinventing the wheel as such, but it's just doing the basics and doing them right, where we basically organize ourselves more in terms of how we go out and search for these people in the traditional ways that we did, where we just emphasizes the volume, and also we kind of change direction in terms of the number of adverts and changing the adverts either for the same role or for various roles. So I would say not reinventing the wheel, but just doing the basics and doing them right.
Good stuff. Charlotte, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, for us it was a bit around diversification of channels as well. So I joined Brandon in February, and when I arrived, the main channel was Indeed. So we've looked at different pools of candidates and different channels to kind of bring people in.
And then probably for us, it's early careers. So that's been absolutely vital for us, especially within retail, and everyone's heard of in retail and hospitality. People don't really see it as a career. So we've had to do a lot of work to start that approach that people coming into our industry, because they are the lifeline to the future for us. So that early career strategy has been vital for us.
Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. So Anonymous has asked, how have you attracted diverse talent at senior level, and what's worked for the best? Anybody want to take that one?
I was going to say, probably the little tool that we've implemented has been around assessment. So we've introduced assessment pieces into what we'd call our middle and senior management levels. It's new to us. It's not new, but it's been new to us, and that's helped to remove some of that bias and take away any potential bias that goes on, that we get a more diverse and inclusive senior managers group.
Yeah. Ahmed?
Something that we've done before, not currently, not in my current role, but previously, is the blind application process. And it was an eye-opener, because you see candidates that usually just get unconsciously kind of disregarded or not necessarily progressed through the process, that actually after the blind application process, they actually have been through, and most of them actually successful. So we all have that unconscious bias, whether, for one reason or another. But hiring managers, when they can't see the name, the age, the location, they just see the technical side of the CV, they tend to kind of find it challenging, because everyone is going to be reluctant to change. But they find it obviously sort of refreshing as well, the fact that they found out by themselves that actually they're considering more candidates, or the pool is all of a sudden is bigger. So I think blind application is definitely a key changer.
Nice. Good stuff. From a personal perspective, I mean, not talking at the senior level, but just looking at some work that we did around technical talent and trying to attract technical people, and simple stuff, just like running our adverts through gender decoders, making them much more female friendly. So we had 4 adverts in particular, 3 of which we appointed 3 females to, and these were specific technical talent ends. Again, it's not senior level hires, but it's simple stuff that we know that works, and it's easy enough for us to go out and implement. I love this one from Liz. How are you tackling counter offers? The dreaded counter offer. I think we're all experiencing them. They're on the rise. Certainly, year on year, I ran a report to look at how we were looking at rejection rates and count. And most of them are down to counter offers. We've certainly doubled in our organisation. Something you guys are experiencing, and if so, how are you tackling this tricky subject?
I mean, we must have at least double digits each week in terms of counter offers that's going on. The policy that we've adopted is we use Willis Towers Watson as our benchmarking tool. What we've made sure is that we are achieving benchmark for those salary positions. If we are countered, we will make sure that we are at that high point of the benchmark, but we don't go beyond, because what we're actually doing is creating a more of a beast for all of ourselves, because we are just inflating this demand-led wage spiral that's going on at the moment. So we're sticking to our guns. We're going to benchmark, but we're sticking to our guns. We try to sell all the other benefits, of course, but its salary is that absolute key driver at the moment for candidates.
Yeah, completely agree. Yourselves?
We don't see that quite so much, because we're dealing with more volume roles, but speed of process is really, really key. So getting your offer out and getting the person through the door as quickly as you can to avoid that counter offer even happening.
I mean, for us, it's similar to what everyone's experiencing in terms of the land side, or the head office roles, as we call it. I mean, on the shipboard side, for example, we don't really face that challenge. But my colleague, who's actually more of the perm side, that's his kind of worst nightmare the last few weeks with counter offers. But there's a couple of things to consider there is why they could be counter offered. because as a candidate, there's obviously various things now, especially after COVID, that you got to consider. It's the cultural fit, the remote working, the hybrid, all these things that actually play more into accepting an offer rather than just the salary. Yes, the salary obviously with the cost of living now is a key thing, but if you tick the candidates boxes from the cultural side and obviously the work-life balance point of view as well, that plays more at the moment than just, it's not just the salary where you don't want to, last thing you want is getting into a bidding war, but we're all in that boat, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think they're going to increase as well. Don't think there's any chance of them going away so far. So Ben states retention's been a hot topic this year. Have you implemented anything to mitigate the risk of employees looking to leave? Have you noticed an increase in,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So everyone's felt that increase in people leaving the business. What we've done is, we mentioned internal before, internal mobility. We've absolutely tried to increase to ensure that we can retain people. It is far easier for people to go and apply for jobs externally than it was internally. People didn't know what the other job function areas did or what another department in another team did. So what we've done is to try and give that visibility of what those other teams and departments did to make it easier, along with working with our L&D team to provide them with sort of those core competency training skills as well. So not just focusing on training to help them in their current job, but actually develop their core competencies in a way to try and prevent people leaving our business effectively, because it was an easier option to go and apply somewhere else.
Did it work?
We're getting there.
Work in progress.
Definitely work in progress.
Ahmed, anything to add on that?
I mean, not much, to be honest, to add on that. But, I mean, for example, this year, I would say 40% of our roles on land, they've been replacing or sort of not necessarily new roles. So the retention has been a challenge, I guess, for us as well, same as every other business at the moment. Just because it's very competitive out there, and it's definitely a candidate-led market where candidates, obviously, they have 2-3 offers on the table, and that's just the active ones, not the passive ones. So yeah, not much to add, really.
Yeah, Charlotte, I imagine this has been particularly tricky for you, being in the care or social care sector.
Yeah, totally. We've just done some real back to basics things, so really driving that exit interview completion rate, so that we're looking at legitimate reasons as to why people are leaving rather than our perception of why people are leaving. We've recently done a whole org staff survey where over half the population of the organisation came back and gave some really valuable insight. So it's asking people what they want and taking that away and actioning it.
Good stuff, good stuff. Thank you. It's a great topic of conversation for Matt at the moment. How do you foster company culture with so many people working remotely? Actually, perhaps before you answer that, how do you businesses look? Are they remote, fully remote, hybrids? Has it changed, since people have started returning to work?
For us, it's hybrid at the moment, where everyone is kind of 2-3 days in the office a week. So we're trying to get that balance and sort of get the best of both worlds. But to get that culture, I mean, obviously, when people are in the office, always helps. And when you have an existing culture in the business, if it's a great one, obviously just trying to maintain it and keep it. Or if it's not a great one, trying to sort of adapt to a new one and sort of get the feedback from the business or the employees, should I say. Try and adapt to it and obviously promote it. But it's a tricky one. Every business is different, I guess. Yeah.
Charlotte, Matt, you've both got working environments, I guess, where you've got office-based or perhaps home-based and hybrid-based versus operational teams. I work in a similar environment. It's been a real challenge. How about you guys? How are you kind of keeping that culture together? Or has it divided into subcultures? Those who work on site versus those who work at home.
So our support roles, we're a hybrid for support roles. So minimum 2 days a week in the office, the rest wherever works for you. But then for our main workforce, they are on site, in service, in someone's home, providing that support. I think there is always the risk and there is the danger of it becoming a bit us and them, and there is tendency, there'll be pockets of that wherever you go. But for me, it's about communication, like really open, clear communication, honest and regular and consistent, that people can rely on.
Matt?
Absolutely, got to echo that. So for us, we have our retail and distribution side, which are on-site, in-store, in the warehouses, day in, day out. For our CSC, which is our head office, it's 2-3 days hybrid. what we're finding is to actually try and upskill our management teams, our line managers, to actually provide them with the skills to run a team that is hybrid, and it's a completely different set of skills to your traditional line manager ways of working. So that's been really difficult to kind of provide those skills to something that was really inherent in a lot of our line managers within our business. I think it's really difficult to get a culture that is one size fits all now with a hybrid way of working. Will we ever fully get that full culture that we used to have? I don't think so. I think we'll have a new kind of level of cultures within a business. There may be people that may join a business and never go into a head office. And for me still, may sound old here, but I think you still need to be in that office environment to really understand what the culture of the business is, the ways of working and the values. And I think we potentially might miss out on a lot of people burning out of a business because they haven't had the opportunity to grasp that.
No, there's a lot in that. And moving forward, I mean, do you think we're getting to a point where we're going to see that gradual return to the office? Is that something that you're experiencing? Or whether it's full-time, 3, 4, is that creeping up? Or are people still kind of at that 2, 3 a day a week, and that's where we think it's going to stay?
So I think so. It's settling out for us certainly at 2, 3 days hybrid for our CSC. We hear from candidates day to day that even one day is more than they want to. So we do have to combat those points with the cost of living crisis. I think the hybrid working relationship has actually helped cost of living crisis. So we've allowed it to happen because for some individuals, not driving and commuting into work has actually saved them costs. It's saved them on childcare costs, etc. So it's actually helped them out with the cost of living. So we've kind of softened our approach on it. I don't think we'll ever go any lower than 2 days per week in the office, but it's certainly helped out with the cost of living crisis.
Good. Okay. Just to wrap up this last point, but perhaps a show of hands from the audience. I mean, how many of you would consider actually applying for a job that was now 5 days full-time in the office? Not so many, but a couple of you. Fair play. Good. But it shows where we are, I guess, and where we've come from. Okay, going back to the questions and moving away from the remote working aspect. On average, from Anonymous, on average, what is the cost implication to using programmatic advertising versus traditional job board channels? I think this is a great question. I think you can only answer it if you're using both of these methods. But first of all, I guess, are you using programmatic, and are you seeing, cost differentials and quality differentials between the two channels?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're up for this one, Charlotte.
Yeah, so we're using both job boards and programmatic. The beauty of programmatic is that you've got a lot more tracking available to you of how your posts are performing, how your jobs are performing, and then you can decide what budget you put behind that. So it's kind of up to you when it comes to cost implication. But minimal budget behind it, see what it does, try it out, and then if it's working for you and what you've done, you can then look to divert your budget away from those job boards that may or may not be performing for you.
Okay, good.
For us, it's really new. So we've only been starting to delve into this arena within the last month or two. So for us, it's a brand new journey for us, and we're still trying to get under the understanding of how that works for us, and where to understand all the analytics that comes from it and interpret it that effectively, really.
Is there a view on the kind of scenario when programmatic might work better?
I think it's if you're looking for volume. In my opinion, I would say it's a volume role thing. If you've got one job that you're trying to hire for, it might be a bit more niche.
Good. Top tip. Okay, moving back to the questions. Leo asks, what, in your opinion, is the key to a good candidate journey? You look ready for that one. Oh, sorry, Charlotte. Go on, fight amongst yourselves.
For me, it's communication. So regular, consistent, on brand, but communicate.
Absolutely. So I'd go slick, and you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say communication for us, for me as well, is key, because once you keep that candidate engaged through the journey, considering how many offers are there, how many other roles they've been approached about, communication is definitely key.
How important has time been? Time in that process been, and how is that different, perhaps to where we were this time last year? in terms of that candidate journey, and perhaps how are you still maintaining that good candidate journey with a time impact?
So we've had to work massively hard to increase our pace, not only from our team but also our hiring managers as well, so that they get the understanding of how important, how fast candidates are moving out there, because there are so many recruiters out there trying to snap those candidates up. We've worked really, really hard on our time to offers because we know that that's absolutely critical to getting the right, good candidate into our business.
Mm-hmm. Good. Any build on that?
I think it's about methods of communication as well. Now, the way that I'm used to working years ago, where you pick up the phone and people actually pick up the phone back, it's less likely to happen now. So it's about thinking about how are you going to communicate with them as well as when.
Thanks, Sean.
I think on that bit as well, I think the timing as well. So we've seen a general shift towards the beginning of the day and the end of the day, when people are accessible to get hold of them. That middle part of the day is really now turned into an admin or an admin level of the job, where morning and evening are going after candidates when they're available. So it's about learning and understanding where the candidates are as well.
Yeah.
And also, just to add, in addition to the traditional ways of communicating and keeping in touch with your candidates and keep them engaged, there's things obviously going to talk about the future in a way. It's like things now like chatbots, where the candidate is still engaged, although you don't really use the actual recruiter's time, because it is time consuming when you have 20 candidates that you have to get back to or communicate the feedback or the whatever stage they're at. Things like chatbots can be actually the solution for that.
Yeah, no, agreed. Certainly my own experience as well. I think, even if you don't want to go as far as chatbots, simple automation, we've been scheduling when candidates can call and talk with us, talk with our hiring managers. This simple stuff. Technology's probably sitting there either as a standalone product or in your ATS, and that kind of stuff is very candidate friendly. It's very convenient. It shows real personalization. Total advocate for that, and it means that you can get them on the bloody phone in the first place. Moving on to the next question then. So Anonymous asks about what are we all doing pre and post offer to reduce that time to hire, especially Charlotte in health and social care. I don't know what they've heard about you, Charlotte. But
Time to hire is tough, right? Particularly in social care, where you've got a huge amount of background checking that goes with it. So it's not your nice, easy retail world where you can make an offer, get a passport and say, go to work. We've got a huge amount of background work that we've got to do. So it's about speed of communication. We introduced an interim process back at the end of May, where it was looking, okay, what's the minimum viable product, basically? So what's the minimum that we need to get someone started? And then is there stuff that we can follow up in the background while they're shadowing or doing mandatory training? But how can we get them through the door, on the seat, doing the things that we need them to do? So we launched that back in May. It's had for volume of new starters, it's made a real difference because we've got people through the door. And then we're just looking to improve on that now. But yeah, speed.
I love that idea, because there was always that need, really, that we were aiming to get everything we knew about a candidate up front first of all. There's no need at all. You don't need half of that information until they've actually started and decided to join a business. You can pick all that up a hell of a lot later. It makes a hell of a difference. Matt, did you have anything to add to that at all?
I was going to say, the MVP approach is something that we've adopted as well. For many, many years, we used to try and get everything and make sure that we either got everything and gave everything all at once. We don't need to do that. We can simplify that journey, which inherent speeds up the time to offer them.
Good. Perfect. We've got a particularly popular post coming up here. It says, following on from the candidate communication element, how much of this is automated? Or is it all via the recruitment team and managers directly? Is that going back to the idea of communicating with candidates and giving them an opportunity to talk to us? Does anyone want to? Yeah, hi.
I wish we had the tech to do it. I wish we had the tech, I wish we had the systems, I wish we had the automation. But sadly, my long-enduring team, a few of which are sat in the audience, work incredibly hard to make sure that they're communicating as and when the candidate needs. Yeah, I'm all for automation. I wish we could afford it, but we can't.
And very similar sort of situation for us as well. So it's a combination between automated, like through ATS, basically, whether there's, when you move candidate from one stage to another, an email kind of gets generated, but also we do have the element, the human kind of touch as well. Because obviously, we process on average about 40 to 50 candidates a week. and that's hired. So obviously the amount of interviews that happens before that, etc. So I wish, again, there is an automated kind of system that we can implement just to reduce that time, because obviously that's less admin time for the recruiters, which means they can be more productive in other areas as well.
There's a real balance between actually that personalisation, plus is this worth my time? Is this a value add? So no, get it. Heard that myself. How do you welcome your new remote starters into the business? So equipment, welcome packs, etc. So it's one thing, I guess, onboarding them. It's one thing recruiting them. Any ideas? Or did somebody else do it for you?
So we did have that problem, and no plugs, but we use Dell, who offer this system for us. So they use, obviously, they're our IT suppliers, so they supply all the IT equipment to the individual. But we've also then got them to include all our sort of welcome box materials to go out with them as well, because it's on the same drop.
Good.
For us, it's still obviously it's a hybrid model. So our new starters, if they are landside, obviously they just have to start on the day where the manager or the hiring manager is in the office at that day, and they can meet them physically and greet them and get their IT stuff done. But on the shipboard, obviously, it's slightly different. Just going back to the sort of the time to hire reduced. So our time to hire at the moment, when our candidate is offered the job, until they actually set foot on the ship, it can take up to 16 to 18 weeks, and that's purely for visa, docu-CFA documentation, which are elements obviously outside of our control, unfortunately, but it's still kind of remote, where they have to do the journey from whatever country they're from to where the ship is docked, so we can just guide them remotely until they meet the team when they get to the actual ship. So in terms of the first day, they meet their manager kind of physically, but the journey in between is all done remote, which can be challenging as well.
16 weeks. Yeah. Scary. Hetty asks, are you implementing anything to help combat the cost of living crisis? And if so, what measures are you taking and why?
So being a value discount retailer, we're a bit limited in this arena, and it is really, really tough for us. We would love to do more and more for our colleagues, but as a business, we have our costs being squeezed as well. We have done as much as we can do in terms of pay increase this year. We've offered increased discount scheme for our colleagues, so we've doubled it from 10% to 20%. We've increased our financial wellbeing classes, etc. We've introduced My Staff Shop, which is a great saving scheme. But that's as far as we can go, unfortunately. We haven't got some of these magic pills out there that are, here's 10% salary increases or anything else like that, because we can't afford it. Yeah. And a lot of other businesses are in the similar place where their costs are being squeezed as well. So it's a difficult arena.
No, I kind of agree, because I think you do hear these stories of employers making massive gestures, but I'm not actually sure if that's the reality of most employers. Certainly in our perspective, I know that we targeted the lowest earning element, and we're able to give a certain uplift in terms of pay. But beyond that, actually, we did something which I thought was incredibly stupid, and we asked people to come back to the office more than they were doing whilst we were having a financial crisis. And I just thought, what a great way to disengage our colleagues. It's just madness. So I'm not actually sure if people are doing huge amounts, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think there were some good examples of what could be done, but whether people are actually getting licensed to do that and really pushing the boat out to make this a long-term thing to tackle the cost of living, I'm not so sure. How about you, Ahmed?
I mean, we pretty much similar challenges to Matt, what just Matt mentioned. And I think the key thing, in a way, is the hybrid and the remote working, because that's the biggest saver, in a way, compared to the cost of, obviously, petrols or fuel these days, and childcare and everything else. And that, funnily enough, is more appreciated by colleagues and employees than anything else, because that's really where they save money in their back pockets, if they don't have to spend on fuel and childcare, etc.
Perfect. Okay, good. We're just coming up for about 10 minutes left, so keep questions coming, keep voting on them, because we're going to come towards the end of the session. Just going to ask, what is the one innovation or change each of you has made that had the biggest impact on recruitment success? And that comes from Giles. It's a big question, Giles.
Need some time to ruminate on that one.
Say again, Charlotte.
Need some time to ruminate on that one.
So an innovation or change that each of you has made the biggest impact on recruitment success. So I guess I've got one, which is kind of going backwards. And I'm hoping that I'm not the only one who's experienced this. But I thought I was amazingly clever when we introduced video interviewing. It was saving huge amounts of time. It was driving quality early on in the process. Our hiring managers loved it. And all of a sudden, kind of August, September last year, people stopped doing them. They were just like, nah, what? I'm in charge now. So one of the biggest changes that we made that made the biggest impact was actually go back to old-fashioned telephone calls, picking up the phone, screening calls. I mean, they're personalised, there's good opportunities, lots of good reasons for them. But as a recruiter, with very few resources, I was loving the fact that it's maybe more efficient. But actually, we were reverse engineering, I guess, what we put in place, and that's still in place. And I can't see the end of that insight anytime soon, personally. Tell me if you're experiencing things differently.
I think for us as a business, it's one of those things that accidentally or been forced to actually do it, but it was almost a game changer. So through COVID, pre-COVID as a business, we used to travel around the world and hold assessment centres, and that could be anywhere within sort of Europe or South America. And these assessment centres were providing us within sort of 20 to 25 candidates, but that's across a period of sort of 2 weeks. And obviously the cost involved in terms of to fly people out, to hold the assessment centres and host these events, etc. Then because of COVID, obviously restrictions with travelling and everything else, we had to do these group assessment centres virtually. And that was a game changer for us as a business, where we went from hiring about 20 to 25 people in sort of 10 days to a couple of weeks. Now we're actually averaging between 40 to 50 a week, just because of that virtual sort of technology where we are hosting and inviting and having more people, and there's no restrictions. We can host people from South America and India and Eastern Europe all in the same time, in the same place. So that was a big game changer for us as a business, where now we're hitting volumes that we never did before. But again, it's not like reinventing the wheel, but it's just we've been forced to it, but it's been very innovative in a way.
The thing is about the time that you had. It was the opportunity to be able to do that afforded you. Yeah. If you'd have suggested it before, they wouldn't have heard it.
No chance.
Absolutely. Yeah, been there. Matt?
I was going to say, I'm not sure whether this is innovative or a change. However, data. We've all got tons and tons of data, which generally sometimes we must admit we don't do much of with. Our change, our innovation was to actually use that information and actually start to drill down and make some insightful decisions about what could influence and change our business. So we've got loads of touch points with our colleagues, from Your Voice, which is an engagement survey, to farewell surveys, and we collected all this data, but we didn't do anything with it. And I think our biggest change was to do something with that data, to make some informed decisions that could then shape our business and our strategy. That's probably been one of the biggest game changers for us, is that we can say we're doing the right thing for our colleagues.
Excellent work. Excellent work. Okay, we're going to try and mop up and get through the rest of these questions. They're still coming through. We've had a question on diversity, but I'm going to ask this, give you an opportunity, because it was pitched towards the senior end. And this is, how do you ensure that you recruit a diverse and inclusive workforce? What are we actually doing? So I'll put my hand up. I'll say in our business, we're very, very poor. We do very little. We don't have a people goal, which I'm ashamed to say, but it's something that I'm working on. But right now, it's just not where we're at, and I think it is something that clearly brings benefits, but it's just not on the radar of perhaps some of the senior team. It's something that we need to be taking the conversation and making them aware of and selling the benefits of. You guys might be doing much more than I am.
I think, for us, there's a couple of things that I've experienced, or I've sort of been involved, projects that I've been involved before, and one of them, obviously, the bland application process. I think that was really eye-opening as well. But also just touching on what you've mentioned earlier, softwares out there sort of write the gender-neutral adverts, trying to target sort of both genders and not sort of unconscious bias advert where you're mainly targeting males or females. I think those two key things that would definitely could change the gender gap and more of a diverse kind of audience as well.
Thanks, Simon. Matt, I'm going to move on to you for the next question, if that's okay, which is what are the current challenges facing recruitment for warehouse staff?
The biggest challenge is salary. So what we find is with our warehouse colleagues is there is so much competition out there because of the omni-channel businesses out there that a 10p increase in salary to the warehouse company next door, whether that be Amazon or whoever, it will attract those people. So being very acute of what's going on in the marketplace, it is absolutely essential to make sure that you can be on the money in terms of that salary element. It is really driving how you recruit in those areas. There is no other solution to it.
Great.
And also, just to touch on the warehouse, because we have a massive challenge in terms of warehouse as well. When you think you have the salary right, someone else comes and tells you, oh, next door is paying actually £2 more. So it's really challenging. One thing that we kind of had to adapt and then kind of adopt, should I say, is the temp to perm. Because obviously the shortage and we couldn't afford not having people. So temp to perm it was one of the solutions that we kind of adopted, and it's kind of helping us and keeping the warehouse ticking, and we can rely on the culture and the team and the management and the hiring management to actually try and convert those temps into wanting to stay perm. But there's no magic wand, unfortunately, or there's no magic solution to fix that yet.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, quick fire question from Matt. What is the best ATS that the panel has used in their career?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's an advert, isn't
good
it?
name as well, Matt. Workable.
Workable?
Yep.
I can tell you the worst.
Excel?
It's probably the worst is either iRecruit or Sappy recruiting.
Fabulous.
No comment.
I'll go for Recruity. Who wants to take the next question? We just got time, I think, for one person to answer the next question, so we will get through them. But what is your onboarding process post-offer from Liz? Anybody like to take that one?
So post offer, if we just take one of the avenues, which is retail. So our retail colleagues will go into a training store. They'll have 12 weeks of induction where they're associated to a training manager. They generally work through. It's a little old school, but they work through a workbook. They're given all the skills, bits and pieces. They do 8 weeks of in-store training and then 4 weeks of accountability to make sure that they've got all those skills in place. And then there's a period of obviously sign-off throughout that. So it's just regular contact with our new starters to ensure that they are getting the best experience.
Good. Okay. Hope that answers your question. Liz, Anonymous asks, is there any innovation you want to add or change to your process that you haven't had time to do yet? Well, the obvious answer is yes. It's just what? Anyone want to take that?
For us, is the programmatic sort of attraction piece, where we obviously, whether that's advertising or social media, and that's the one thing that we constantly, well, I'm definitely determined to get it through the line and implement. But yeah, that's for me.
For me, it's some automation in candidate comms, but done in a really nice way rather than a hello email. It's the really tailored automatic communication.
Automation and AI.
And
AI.
Very nice. Oh, nice. Yeah. Woo, look at you. For me, it's employer branding. Very simple. Just we have spent no time on building cohesive messages that actually work. So we've done lots of cool stuff, but we've never really spent any time thinking about it and putting it all together in some kind of asset that people can use. So that's what I'd like to be doing next year. Finally, I think to end off, what are your goals for 2024? That's a scary one.
I've survived 2023
I was going to say, Is anyone
through
forward planning
2023
that
first.
much?
Yeah.
Say again, Ahmed.
Get through 2023 first.
Charlotte, any thoughts for 2023, perhaps?
But yeah, get through 2023. But I think the thing for 2024 is overall have more new starters than leavers.
What do you think the biggest difference is going to be next year as to what we've experienced this year? Or what are we hoping for? perhaps in terms of market and what we can
I think it's going to be more of the same, unfortunately. I'm really sorry to disappoint people. I think the next 6 to 12 months are going to be the same as the last 6 to 12 months that we've just had. It is going to continue to be really fierce out there to get the right talent into our businesses.
I think you've definitely got to gear up for that anyway. Plan for the worst.
God, we're a miserable lot. I love it. And on that fantastic note...
We've had a go at it, so we know what to expect in a way. So.
Exactly. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, please put together your hands for our panellists. That's the end of the panel discussion.